doing the, I guess, the Pledge of Allegiance to do that. And we can start with that, right?
I didn't realize we were doing that on Zoom.
Well, I don't know, why not, right?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Play ball. Let's take a look. I'll share my screen. I have the agenda up here. Give me just a second to figure out how to get over here. I think you should all be able to see my screen at this point. Yes?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, very good. So that was the opening ceremonies. Next is adoption of the agenda. You've all seen it. It's been posted, and we're just really going to review the town's progress versus plan and discuss and prioritize issues. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Hey, that was an easy one. Okay, organizational tasks. We're the 4 committee members plus Gary as a liaison are here. Jimmy, everybody knows all these folks, I think. Julie, Phil, and myself. Gary is as commissioner liaison. Unless anyone wants to give an extended bio of themselves, I think that's good enough for now, right?
Yep.
So, okay, good. So I'm not familiar with this format, but I did receive several weeks now ago from Gary a copy of the town's report that has been filed as of, I believe, the end of July or the end of June, perhaps, probably the end of June, with the state showing the progress against the plan. And if you'll excuse me for just one second, I want to move my laptop down so I can see it a little bit better. Tilt this back. Okay, there we go. And so there's a lot of information in here. It's going to be a little difficult as we have to try to navigate through this. What I thought we'd do, first of all, I should ask, has everyone had a chance to kind of take a read of this and see, what the contents are?
Yeah. I perused.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Jimmy, it was just a quick overview. There is a lot of good information in here, and the format is appropriate, although it's a little hard to navigate when you're going to go through it the way we are. What I thought we could do is, in just going quickly through each of the major sections, talk about if there's a lot of interest and or support for any one or so of these kind of initiatives that we can then recommend that there be given emphasis to give it to the council. There's 5 or 6 categories and each one has several tasks. I'm going to ignore for the time being, since we have a limited amount of time here, the actual tasks that have been either undertaken or are complete. There are several, and focus on those that haven't, because I think that's really what we need to do. Is we need to provide some direction or input, I should say, to council on what are the preferred things for the town to begin addressing next, given the current situation and the COVID and all that goes with our current state of affairs in town. So with that in mind, as we go through here, I made a note of a couple of things, and I'll go slowly enough that hopefully if someone sees one that they feel strongly about, pipe up, please, and we'll just kind of try to do it that way. The one thing I will say is that I think we should narrow any kind of priority list down to 1 or 2 longer term items and 1 or 2 short term items, just to be practical when it comes to this stuff. We don't want to end up with a long list of things that we want to recommend, because the time to do these things is significant. So let's just keep in mind that when it comes down to feeling strongly about one, let's all be willing to give and compromise a little bit. So,
Yeah, can I interject something for a second?
sure.
Yeah, just as a point of order, I assume, Ashley, you've got the original of this?
They probably have the original. I think I have a Word copy as well. I think I sent that to Dave. I can't remember. I don't have the final signed, excuse me, the final signed Word version of it though.
Okay, whoever has the original, might I suggest that we, all the major topics here, we have an alphabet A, B, C, D, E, and then within each topic, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should certainly make it easier to talk about the different topics. Just a little bit of organization.
Okay. We won't be able to do that obviously in today's meeting, and this may be the only session we have, but in future reference, I think that certainly is a good idea.
Like,
Okay, so let's see. Starting with the plan objectives, equitably address the needs of residents. I think we can skim through this. Housing, zoning code, there is some work underway, I think, in some of these areas. Does anybody?
I'm sorry. Before you keep going, the one thing that struck me about demographics and population, it's not a huge deal and it's not like something I'm, overly, but given the COVID situation, I've noticed the demographics and how this town has changed a lot, especially like I've got neighbors that are from New York that when COVID hit in March, they've been essentially full-time residents this whole spring and summer. So I think the demographics to some extent because of COVID have changed a little bit. So that intrigued me. It's not a big like sticking point or anything, but I just wanted to kind of point that out that I think the demographics of the town have changed a bit given the COVID environment.
Okay, but that might be more of a short-term change.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes,
Right.
Definitely.
And where did you see that, Julie? I'm struggling to.
It's the very first page. The demographics and population is the very first item.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, the very first item. Yep.
Got it. Okay, very good.
So anyway, it just struck me just knowing, especially because on my street, I've noticed the change.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, not at all. We're trying to navigate this as efficiently as possible. Housing, when it comes to things in the zoning code and rehabilitation, I think those are things that we should, certainly everyone agrees we should pay attention to. I think we'd be hard pressed to address those in this day and age, or at least in the short term. Is everybody okay with skipping on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Low and moderate income, same thing. Okay,
Right.
so look at that. We're already through a page. Land use and annexation. Future buildings proportioned to fit within the existing character of the town. There's some active work there on the bulk standards and also the NR zoning that are active. So let's skip through those. And for the rest of these, I think that's probably as much as needs to be taken into consideration at this moment. Future development comprehensively evaluated. That sounds more like a longer term thing. If anybody disagrees, please stop and argue the point. I'm happy to stop at any point here. Annexation of existing land and use and development within town. I don't think we're equipped at this point to begin cutting our teeth on any of that at the moment. Anybody in here have anything in here that looks important to them at this moment?
No, and the people that live in those areas have no interest whatsoever in being part of it.
Right. Okay. Blighted parcels. Certainly that is a long-standing issue of some importance in town. I don't know of anything in particular that's been raised recently that would bring that to the forefront. Anybody have any strong feelings about that one?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there is something ongoing right now that planning and zoning is looking at a building maintenance code, a building maintenance ordinance, perhaps.
Okay.
It's still in development.
Okay. Well, that's already in progress, right?
Yeah.
Ordinance. Gary, got it. Okay. I'll make reference to that in the notes from the meeting. Okay. Transportation. Policies to keep coastal highways safe, enjoyable to get around. To me, this looks like more to do with, you know, Del Dot and the power company involvement there. But I did think that this one, first one on page 5, for both pedestrian and bicycle network, there might be something here that, you know, is worth, you know, near-term consideration. Some of these are very specific. I was thinking more in general about any ways that any improvements can be done to make the town safer for both, you know, biking and pedestrian traffic. Anybody have any support or interest in that?
Well, with the recent work that Del Dot has done on Route 1, and we were pretty much the first place in Delaware to get that done, which is very fortunate. And I don't know who did that, but most of these items are essentially complete. We've
Yeah.
got great signage, we've got great crosswalks, we got blinking lights. I don't think they moved the 2 poles. You know, we talked about the ADA thing with the pool or the pole by Sharky's where the sidewalk is narrow. I meant to look at that, but I'd say 95% of this stuff has been completed, and it really looks good.
And would
Not
that
to say that people are following the law.
would that have happened since this draft was created, do you think, Phil?
Yes, it was just completed in the last couple of weeks. It's been going on for the last 3-4 months.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
if that's the case, I think, you know, that's an excellent thing that we can point out that, you know, a substantial amount of this work may have already been completed, right?
yes.
And
I think
and that's
I
why I
will.
wanted things numbered so I could say which ones have been completed.
I will say the only thing that I love the fact that now the sidewalks are all pretty much ADA compliant with the kickouts, but it does make the bike lanes at the bike/turn lanes at some point much more narrow, which, you know, is a little bit of a hazard for bikers who aren't expecting, you know, they've got a lane and all of a sudden they've got a very small lane. So that's a little bit of a concern, but it's still better than what we had before.
I
I'm not
agree.
one to criticize.
So this one we can say is at least underway, and some of the bullets may be complete.
Correct.
Instead of you having to take this on, why don't we direct back that, you know, that, you know, whether it's Jim, Dee Dee's handling it or Dale's, you know, Dale, maybe you can direct us to who would be the person to make some kind of reference and update of this.
I think it would be our job, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a certainly a fair, you can make a fair argument that as part of your job, you could keep track, a running track list of things that you believe have been completed, or, you know, wherever the status on these things change. When we put this report together this year, we had somebody from P&Z took an initial shot at it. Jim Dede's took a shot at it. I took a shot at it, and we could just kind of combine them. But it was, you know, if we've got somebody who's regularly tracking these things and can give us a sheet that's already updated, you know, with some pretty good information, I think that would go a long way to efficiently producing these reports in the future.
Okay. Well,
Gary, this is Dale Cook.
Yeah.
Who signed off? Did the chairman of the committee sign off, and the mayor, or the town manager, or who signed off on it?
On the report,
Yeah.
you should have signed off on it, as well as the town manager. I believe you did sign off on it.
You did.
Okay, I just didn't remember. David asked, and I just didn't remember who signed off on it. But I think it was compiled, like Gary said.
June,
so-
the date of the signing, Dale, is June 30th of this year.
I can't remember yesterday. So
I agree. I'm with you.
hopefully somebody didn't sign your name there, Dale.
no, that's me. That's my chicken scratch.
Very good. And Chris Fazio and Ashley as the, yep, there you go. All right, so we're good on that. And Phil, if you would be so kind as to take a run at checking off or the status in these NUCO codes, what we believe is accomplished, we'll make a note of that and make that part of the minutes from the meeting.
I will formalize something.
That'd be great. And then we'll include it in the minutes from the meeting. There's no sense in bogging it down further now, but that's wonderful. That's good to see. Okay, bicycle network, safe and accessible. I think, you know, is that also something that's been, or is that a more extensive network that connects into the town, do you think?
That can involve some discussion, but I think it's in pretty good shape. There are bicycle racks all over the place.
Yeah.
Whether they're new or old, but they are there.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of what I was addressing before, is that the bicycle network is good. It is, making ADA accessible kind of shrunk the bike lanes in some spot but it's still an accessible route. It's still safe. It's still definitely, I used to do triathlons. As a cyclist, it's still a safe environment to bike in this town.
I agree.
So how about that middle bullet, adequate and secure bicycle parking? There's places to park bikes, and the security of them is the job of the owner, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Phil, it sounds like this one's pretty well covered too, if you can add that to your list. Would you? Okay. Educate Dewey residents on safe walking, bicycling, scootering techniques. What about that is something that we could recommend to the council, as now that we have done all this work on the town, ability to move around safely, should there be some kind of education created for that?
Arg.
Again.
Yeah, we could set up classes in town hall and make it mandatory.
I know. I wish. My only objection to anything that happens in town is that bicyclists that go southbound on the northbound side of the road, because they're not supposed to, and it drives me nuts when I'm trying to make a right out of New Orleans Street and a cyclist is whizzing past me going southbound in the northbound lanes. That's my only pet peeve about bicycling safety.
Well, then you have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same problem down in Bethany and Fenwick. All the coastal towns have the same issue.
I know, because nobody wants. If you're going somewhere and you don't want to cross the street again, I get it, but that's my biggest pet peeve.
Well, this is a little broader because it involves work with LDOT, if you follow the logic of the points that are made here. Do we want to get into that, or just let that go for the time being?
No, let it go. I'm just being.
Okay. Very good. Parking strategy. I think parking is, pretty well handled for this year. Why don't we, well, certainly a comprehensive parking study for the town could be something that the town should. I'll remind everyone, we're now 2 years into a 10-year plan. And, we've just done the first update as of, I'm sorry, we're not 2 years. We're 2 years since it was signed off on the interim step. So we are, 4 years into the current plan at this point? Longer, 2015, maybe 5 years. And
That can't be that. Is it that long?
well,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we go from when the plan was signed off on, was certified, I believe. I have to double check that, but.
yeah,
I think so.
the updated plan was certified in July, I think it was, of 2018. So that's 2 years. Right.
So I mean, really, this is only the second update we've done on the plan.
Right.
Now, obviously, the next 10-year planning process will have to be done before 10 years are up, but.
Right.
I think we're
let's say 2 years. We're 2 years into a 10-year planning horizon, or cut out some of that for starting up again. We probably should be talking about a comprehensive parking arrangement for the town. Is this something that you folks feel strongly we should be recommending? I'll take that as a no. I'll take that.
I don't think it's going to be an issue for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. We'll move on. All right, community services and facilities. Public safety, law enforcement, and emergency response. These are all underway as marked off in this report. So I think we can let them go for the time being. Unless pursue funding to install more surveillance cameras. I guess that as of the end of June was not underway. Can anybody tell me, is there any further activity on that?
Yes, the chief of police just had me sign off on a grant that he's getting from the state and federal government to add more cameras, more cameras that these will be stationary as compared to the rotating ones, but I can't remember how many there were. It seems to me, I'm making a wild guess right now, but I think there were about 8 more cameras or 5 more cameras. I'm not sure which.
Okay, but we can say that this can be set as underway, right?
Mhm.
Correct. I signed off on the grant the other day.
Okay, very good. Then we'll recommend that that be changed to underway as we're reporting some updated statuses. Safe and pleasant public realm for all residents and visitors. There's work underway on that. The noise enforcement code regulation is a continuing effort. Strengthen code enforcement, and public well-being. I think we probably don't want to delve into that at this juncture, given the other things going on in town. Facilities, town hall effectively supports operations and services. And that's one big bullet there to talk about a much larger plan for, I guess, expanding or a new facility for town hall. So I think I wouldn't suggest we get into that nook and cranny at the moment. Emergency response services is marked as underway to ensure facilities are adequate for the police. So that's a good news thing.
Just so you guys know, we just had a call with Senator for Inland Bays and some of the people that are working with them throughout the state on emergency response plans. And we're probably going to recommend to the commissioners that we tie in with the county emergency response plan first, and then let the commissioners decide whether they want to develop one that's particular to Dewey Beach.
Sounds good. I won't make any note of that in our progress though, Dale. Okay, natural resources. Well, these are kind of, high level qualitative lifestyle things. Let's, unless anybody has a strong interest, I'd be willing to, pass by this one.
Mhm.
The only problem, wait a minute, back to that category of thing, established Dewey Beach is a world renowned, yada, yada, yada. You remember for years, it's always been what happens in Dewey stays in Dewey. Sorry about that.
Mm.
I think Vegas has a trademark on that, Phil. Infrastructure, evaluate stormwater drainage system. So this one speaks to me, and I know there is some activity going on or has been commissioned as a while ago, I think, about getting an inventory of the stormwater drainage system, which makes me surprised that there are no underways listed here in this one. Am I
Yeah.
mistaken about that?
Dave, if you want to comment on that one too, the town, that pilot project has been completed on a small section of the stormwater drains. And we're just waiting for a physical meeting of the town commissioners to be able to occur so they can come in and give us, the people who did it, the company and the CIB who did it, can give us an actual report and point it out on the maps, et cetera.
Okay, make a note of that, but is there anything in here that, these all seem to be a little, well, ensure that any storm capable of handling future anticipated sea level rise. Nothing in here speaks exactly to that, but I will make a note of it, Dale. These seem a little broader. Okay. Enhance the quality and convenience of community life. Seascapes and landscapes. Trash and recycling. Nothing here looks like it is, something that's urgent to deal with. Anybody have any
Yeah.
passion for any of these?
No.
Nope. Okay. I know you're just holding off until we hit something to light.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Enhance and protect in the town's built environment. Okay, utilities and infrastructure. I don't think that's anything that we can really fight off at this point. Cultural resources, the way of life. Family-friendly resort. It is an ongoing effort. These are, wonderful goals, but are relatively vague in terms of their specifics.
Yeah. Well, I think I gotta say the mini golf has been a great addition. My family was in town from Chicago at the beginning of August, and the 14 and 10-year-old loved the mini golf place. So there was a good family-friendly activity.
There we go. How about if we just put in a general comment here that we think that all of these are worth giving some consideration to by perhaps the marketing committee in the near term, those kinds of things. How about that?
That sounds great.
Let me make a quick note. That's cultural resources.
I can say there's efforts underway today to improve the Lions Club playground, which is a very, very popular
Oh yeah.
destination for families here, and they're redoing all the fencing with new wood and painting it and everything. I assume it's going to open again sometime soon. Dale, do you know?
Phase three.
No, I don't know for a fact. Jimmy would know more about that than I would.
Oh, Jimmy, yeah.
Probably during phase three. We're also looking at replacing some of the actual slides and equipment there. So that's in the works as well.
Cool.
Okay. Economic development, positive climate for diverse businesses. I think there has been some progress made, in a small scale on that. Obviously, it's an ongoing effort. Is there anything here that I don't guess you want to forge any external partnerships at the moment, but anything in particular here that before we get to that one, anything in here particular? Should we say the same for the marketing and maybe the Dewey Business Partnership, are actively working on these kinds of initiatives?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't do all the stuff that we usually do. Like we can't do we're deciding on the trick or treating, but like the end of the summer party, all the stuff that we did, the Easter egg hunt, all that had to be put on hold because of COVID. But we're still actively looking at trick or treating and the tree lighting. So we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks.
All right. This one I think is important, and I know that Bill Stevens, who's the head of the Budget and Finance Committee, we've been having some discussions about this, stable and predictable revenue sources. So this is one that I feel that we should be taking as much active interest in as possible. Undertake a comprehensive evaluation of infrastructure needs. I think that's been started in the Infrastructure Committee. Is that correct?
Well, the overall evaluation, I would say it's been started, but we're not going very far with anything right now with the infrastructure because of COVID. But you can tell that of course the highway has been redone, through cooperation with the state and the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this issue of establishing and funding an appropriate long-term capital improvement plan, that's something that we probably would have been working on had we not run into the COVID situation, because we're a little worried that the resources aren't going to be as plentiful as they would have been had we not run into some of the downturn because of the virus.
Yeah.
But that's something that really needs to be moved along.
Right. But it is underway, so it's listed as.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
So,
But I think it's fair for the committee, even for things that are underway or ongoing, it's fair for the committee to question exactly what's going on and is there enough going on, and to make some recommendations in that regard.
Very good. Now, does everybody feel that this is a good one for us to make a recommendation to this be given additional, time, consideration, resource to
Could I recommend that we recommend to the commissioners that they direct the infrastructure committee to undertake a comprehensive evaluation? We were going to do that a couple of years ago, and it got squelched by our town manager at the time, that the infrastructure committee may only do what they're directed to do.
That's
That
still
got done.
that's still the case. Has there been, I thought I heard someone say that there has been some work in this area for a comprehensive plan. It just isn't very far.
There was a couple of years ago, but right now, apparently the infrastructure committee cannot do anything independently unless they are directed to do it, which makes no sense whatsoever, in my not so humble opinion.
Harry or Dale, is there any activity going on in infrastructure that you're aware of relating to it?
Well, we're basically just keeping the infrastructure committee, the chairman of the infrastructure committee, informed of what's going on right now, because everything that's going on that's been planned well ahead of time before this COVID situation came on board, and they have backed off doing anything, having any committee meetings like most committees have, you know, but they could be directed by, you could, it would be good for you to ask the town, you know, what's going on there, and you know, look at those specific items and ask the town, the commissioners, to have the infrastructure committee asked to look at those items and move on some things.
Thank you, Dale. We'll try to make it briefer than that, but put it into words. So is Jim Tyler still the head of the infrastructure committee?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And he's been sequestered in his condo like most older folks have.
Okay. And how about the first bullet here? Can we also make a recommendation? Does everybody feel okay with making a recommendation that there be emphasis given for this? I think it's long past due that we create some better, stable and predictable revenue streams here. Everybody okay?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. I hear everybody. So this one's important, I think, for the long-term survivability of things. Okay, sea level rise, climate change. I think we'd be hard pressed to be taking on huge projects now, given the situation at hand. But there is some activity, I think, that's needed. I don't think there's anything that's been done yet to establish a resilience plan for long-term viability of the town. Can we at least say that this is something that should be started relatively soon, and just couch it that way?
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that needs to be addressed, but it's not.
Well, just so that you all know, the Reed Street project has been all but completed, and the CIB has contacted the town about getting together on additional grants and that they're going to recommend within the next month or 2 months to the commissioner. So we are working on that area of the comp plan. But what will happen, basically, it evolves that, that the commissioners have to really finally kind of decide what is the resiliency plan for the town. Basically, it's going to end up being working with CIB to work our way out from the bottom of the bowl on each side of Reed Street and work our way out.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I think it's even broader than that, really, Dale. I think that this is an overall plan for, what it's going to look like, what it needs to look like in 10, 20, 30 years from now, rather than just, the specific things on our time horizon now. And, as we said before, we're 2 years into a 10-year planning cycle, and we all know this is coming. We can't put it off too long, but we'll just make a recommendation that there be some kind of task force formed or something along those lines that begin to formulate a plan in this area.
Gotcha.
Okay, flood development. I think that really, it's specific to Freeboard, but let's skip over these. Preservation of natural habitat. I think there has been some efforts in that area. I've heard people talk, but nothing that I'm particularly aware of.
Dave?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. May want to come back to this issue of the freeboard and minimizing flooding and developments, and also the established mechanisms by which houses built in any flood zone may be elevated to the effective minimum building elevation. There's some work there that needs to be done on both of those issues. And with flooding situations getting worse, freeboard, I think the issue of freeboard becomes even more important to consider. There's work here to be done by the Charter and Code Review Committee to understand, the extent to which the existing regulations and requirements are clear. And if they're not and need to be changed or improved in some way, then that's really planning and zoning's role. So I think there's some important work to be done here, and it's going to involve a couple of different committees.
Okay, well, I think that's kind of speaks to the longer term issue of, sea level rise, and certainly is more near term work that can be done. I'll make a specific
Right.
recommendation along those lines. Preservation of nature, I think, we all agree it's a great thing, but let's, just say that that's an ongoing kind of thing. There's no activity listed here, but I think we're good. That pretty much completes this exercise of going through the different areas. I would suggest that if there's any other comments about things that we feel strongly that we should mention, please bring them up now, if you would.
No.
Okay, wow, we're going to do this in record time. I thought this would be,
Woohoo!
yeah. You can go back to the Verizon
You
one.
beat me, Dave. My meeting was 45 minutes yesterday.
No, we're not done.
Dave, can I just make one more comment?
Yeah.
I know you guys are getting a late start in terms of the year, but hopefully this committee can be reconstituted again, shortly after the election. I really think this is an important committee. There's nobody else focused on this the way this committee is intended to focus. And this is something that is very visible to the state. The better job we do on this and the better job we do on reporting on our progress, I think it certainly improves the image of the town. So again, I think this is really a really important committee. And I hope that you guys will, continue to work diligently on this.
I agree with you, Gary. I think it is an important committee, which really has me scratching my head as why I was nominated to lead it. I think, yeah, and here's what I would suggest we do. Let me write up some meeting minutes, and I would like to circulate that to the group. And then we find a way to have a thumbs up, thumbs down, or, suggested changes. And, because we are on a short time frame here before the election and all, maybe we can squeeze in a meeting 2 or 3 weeks from now before the election weekend to at least get these things agreed to in the minutes as we, the recommendations we're making, and then pass them along to the council for their future consideration. I think that's probably the most we can do at this juncture, but I think it's important that we, we do follow through on this.
David, this is Dale. I completely agree with both you and Gary. I think it's really important that this committee stay active. The biggest thing I've seen with my in and out of town hall consistently is that there is so much stuff going on that if somebody doesn't take the points up as a challenge to make sure they keep going, things get overlooked. I mean, just lately I overlooked something very important that I thought I had done and I had not. So, and it's going to be a problem for the town. These items are not at the forefront of the commissioner's site or the town manager's site, and with an acting town manager and then a new town manager coming on, the committee is needed to keep an eye on these items that we have to cover.
Agreed. And what I'll offer to do in support of that is, because this is really our first and only meeting for this year, before the election, I would like to still try to get these recommendations made and submitted to the town council. But I'll also offer, if the town council decides to take me up on this, to continue as the chair of the committee in the coming year, and probably ask the same group of people with adding one, perhaps additional person or more, to make it an odd number in case we need to vote on anything specific. But we can continue this dialogue if we're asked to do so again, and then I can promise you that we will make the effort more frequent and regular for continuing this in the right way. So,
Thanks, Dave.
with that, I'll ask for any other comments from anyone.
Yeah, Dave, I've got one more comment about this whole process. As as Dale pointed out, this is a very important committee in that it provides an overlook. It's one group that looks at everything in the town. And that one of our goals for each of these areas here, once they've been alphabetized and numbered, what have you, is that in each area, we define the problem. And that can come to we've done a good job of it, but in some cases, it's a little vague. But if you can't define the problem, you'll never solve it. And that's just food for thought.
No, I hear you. It's, you know, the way these plans are written is, you know, not really conducive to that approach that, you know, you and I would take as, you know, old systems guys, but I hear you loud and clear.
Sure.
All right. If there's no other business or no other comments, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Oh,
moved.
Yep,
Second.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you,
Hi.
everyone.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Stay
Thank
warm.
you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Ashley, for hosting.
Have a great weekend.
Wow.